Our beloved 8% HardAF Seltzer is now live in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Ohio, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Illinois. Go to hardafseltzer.com today. Click on the store locator and enter your city or zip to find the closest location nearest you.
Oh, I like that angle.
No. That's unfortunate. Time to take the leg.
Welcome to Drinkin, Bro. Yeah, welcome to Drinkin, Bros, kids. Today we're going to talk about a topic that a lot of you guys have written in about, asked about. We've said this in the past, 80% of our audience is military, first responder, and typically people are going through some pretty bad shit. Dark times, chatted about it a little bit earlier today. I don't know how you see and do the things that you do on a daily basis, either here as a police officer or an EMT or a firefighter or overseas as a war fighter, and then come back and try to shake the cobwebs out. But a lot of people are experimenting with Ibogaine. And then that's what you do. So this is Trevor Millar from the Ambio Life Sciences. I say that correctly?
You did, yeah.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Give me a round of applause, Byron, for Christ's sakes. Thank you. I've earned it. I've earned it. But they're trying to legalize it right now here in Texas. It's a big deal. I'm getting a lot of emails from both sides saying, hey, this is great. Hey, don't do this. What's the real answer here?
What's the argument for don't do it?
You know, I'll go to one of our co-hosts who did it, Jared Taylor. So Jared Taylor did it and then came on the show. And I'm going to be honest, like I was fascinated with it at first. I was fascinated with ayahuasca, and I chatted with my wife about it over the years. And Jared came on the show, and he told his story about it. And he said, look, man, you're essentially going through a living hell for 12 hours, I think he said.
Jared's story was crazy.
Did you listen to that episode?
Yeah, I've heard him share that story elsewhere. And it's one of the worst advertisements for Ibogaine that I've ever heard in my life. He really had it worse than average, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get into what he said first, and then we can kind of go back to what or why people have different experiences all across the board.
Yeah.
Because let's take Rob O'Neill. That's a positive one. Rob is obviously a buddy of ours. He's on this network. The Operator Podcast is on this network, and it has changed his life. I know he's done it, I think, 2 or 3 times, he said?
3 times now, I think.
Okay. And he's always wearing the T-shirts and everything else, and he's a very, very big advocate of it. Jared was the same way, by the way, even though he had a horrific story.
Right.
But a lot of people have said you've got to be prepared to go through this crazy, nightmarish hell and face something, whatever that something is, and that something is different for every individual who goes and does it. Jared, the one that stuck with me forever, that haunted my dreams personally, was he said it got so bad at a certain point that he started counting. And he thought he could count down the hours by seconds and then kind of map it out, because he said it felt like I was trapped in there forever. And he said he was positive that he counted to an hour. 60 seconds for 60 minutes. Yeah. And then he looked up at the doctor, whoever the person that was in the room with him, And he said, how long has gone by? And I think they said 4 minutes. And he goes, holy shit, I will never make it out of here. So
It's the wrong attitude.
well, I guess.
Like, why would you be counting down?
Time is not your friend.
But
We tell
that's-
people to take off watches. You got to surrender to the experience.
Yeah, that's one
is
of the things about it
That
is-
wasn't surrender.
That's all psychedelics. There are two, in my experience, there are two key things that you have to face. One, this isn't real, and two, this won't last forever. Once you get past that, you're just in the tide. You know what I mean? The waves come, sometimes they slow down, the waves come again, sometimes they slow down, and you just exist in that moment for some amount of time. But how long is not relevant.
But you don't know when it's in your own minds. Now,
You're not supposed to know.
You, though.
That's the whole point.
You have more experience than maybe 99% of the people on Earth in psychedelics. So it's a
I
different.
would say I wouldn't think there's 1% of people that have more experience than me.
I don't think so either.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. Like, because you were doing it at a very young age. And you and I think one of the first times we met, you and I did just a one-on-one interview together, and you were talking about it. And he was doing it at a very, very young age, and it was acid.
How old?
11.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
was 14.
Yeah.
You were 14 years
14
old.
with acid, yeah.
Whoa, dude.
That was just, like, I grew up in Just Say No to Drugs, as I'm sure we all did, and I thought I would be that way. But there was something in my mind that was like, except LSD maybe, because the Beatles seemed to like that. So the first time LSD came across my world, I took it.
Okay. And what was your experience at 14 years old?
I had no idea that there was therapeutic potential within it, but at the same time, I remember saying to all my buddies, this is what adults have forgotten that have made the world so screwed up. So some kind of therapeutic, intuition was coming through. But I think it really opened my mind and made me see, for one, they seem to be lying about these drugs, because this is pretty fantastic. And
So now,
it just opened the world.
like to back you up on that, I've heard a lot of positive stories, and again, Rob is one of them.
Yeah.
I think you said Conor McGregor. Has
Yeah,
Conor
he was,
McGregor been in your place?
he was public about coming to our place recently. Yeah, he had a tremendous experience. He was public with it. Anything I share about anyone who has been through the program, they've been public about the information that I'll share. But he encountered Jesus, and in the treatment room, he said, "Oh my God, Jesus just entered the room," and
He said it changed his life.
Yeah, it changed his life. He had been with the same woman with 4 kids for many years. He had already been engaged to her, but during the Ibogaine journey, he said he realized, I need to stop living in sin, and he put together a wedding in 6 weeks, basically, and I was just at his wedding in Rome as well, at the Vatican.
He remarried his wife?
No, he hadn't been married. He had 4 kids with her, but was not married to her.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
He got married in Rome December 12th. It was a pretty amazing wedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So, do you own this place, by the way?
I'm one of the 3 co-owners.
Okay.
There's me, another Canadian, and a Mexican.
What-
Jonathan and Jose.
Snow Mexicans. Is what
Snow
we call
Mexicans,
you guys, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
We
Snow
call, we call
Mexicans.
Canadians snow
The
Mexicans.
Canadians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snowbacks.
Yeah.
We call them snowbacks. up there.
Frostbacks, actually. Is what it is.
Yeah. But for you, what was the motivation for opening this clinic?
I started working with Ibogaine in 2012 professionally. I was able to legally work with it in Canada, where I'm from, in Vancouver. And it came to me because there's a neighborhood in Vancouver called the Downtown East Side, and I was focused on trying to help that neighborhood just as kind of a pet project. And that started in 2001, shortly after 9/11, looking for a way to help the world. This neighborhood looked like it could use some help, so I focused upon that, and that basically turned into about a 10-year networking and research project. And then Ibogaine came on the radar as a way to potentially help, because it's also very good at helping people overcome addiction, and particular opioid use disorder. It can get people off of heroin virtually overnight. So that's what brought it to my attention. I opened my first business in Canada. We operated for 5 years there, treated about 200 people in that time for opioid use disorder. And then Amber and Marcus Capone, who started the nonprofit Vets Incorporated. He's a former Navy SEAL who used Ibogaine. It really helped him. They set up a nonprofit that has now sent more than 1,200 people through for this treatment. They reached out, were looking for another Ibogaine provider. That led me to Tijuana to open this business, starting with one house with Jose and Jonathan. And that first year, we probably treated 95% veterans, with at least 90% of those, I'd say, coming through the nonprofit. and so mostly U.S. Special Forces veterans. And then I did a podcast with Sean Ryan, episode 30, and that led a lot of other people to our front door. We now have 6 places in Mexico providing this, 1 place in Malta in Europe.
Okay.
And we're treating about 170 people per month now.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's
It's
wild.
gone huge, yeah.
How long is the experience? So when you fly in, how long do you stay? When do you start the process or journey, as Jared called it?
Yeah. So we do a 5-day program for our foundational program, which is the program that most veterans come through. Foundational means you're not detoxing off of heroin or other drugs, because we've got a separate detox program for that. But we'll pick them up in San Diego, bring them down on day 1, do some work getting to know each other. They get coaching ahead of time as well. We do some preparation. We've been doing a traditional Mexican sweat lodge that first day, which is a great way to kick off the week. Into day 2, some blood work, some breath work, some more preparation, EKG. We're fully medicalized. We have, I think, a dozen doctors on staff now. And it's that second night we start working with Ibogaine. So that will go through that second night into the 3rd day.
Is it an injection?
It's a pill. So
Oh, it's a pill. Gotcha.
take 4 pills over the course of a couple of hours, basically, to ease into it a bit.
Okay.
And yeah, that's essentially a 24-hour long experience. The first 12 hours is where all the bells and whistles might be, if you're going to have visions or hear things or see things. And then the next day is notoriously known as the gray day. It's a day of recovery, and you're pretty depleted. You're as tired as you've ever been, but you can't fall asleep because the medicine's still in your system. So then you'll eventually get some sleep, and it's once you get some sleep that you start feeling the benefits of Ibogaine. So then we work with 5-MeO-DMT is another compound we work with.
Yeah, I
on
work with
day
that quite a
4.
bit myself.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he smoked
Yeah.
it on air before.
On air before?
Oh, yeah. It was totally
Wow.
fun. It was totally fun. There's some up there
No,
if you
no,
want to smoke it.
no. That was NN.
That's it.
Yeah, I wouldn't smoke 5-MeO. I got to lie down for
Yeah,
2
it'd
or
be
3
kind of
minutes.
boring. You just
Yeah.
lie there. Yeah.
I mean, it's not boring for me.
No.
It'd be boring for the
Yeah,
audience.
for the
Yeah, it wouldn't be a
audience,
good. It wouldn't be a good
exactly.
show,
Yeah.
but it's fun for him.
Yeah.
You know.
No, but
Yeah.
we've got some DMT on site.
Yeah,
for
nice.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get
What's up in the
people.
Trump
We
shit?
get back to people to San Diego the day after that, so it's 5 days.
Okay.
And we did a study with Stanford University. So 30 U.S. Special Forces veterans went to Stanford prior to coming to Ambio. They got brain scans. They got a battery of other tests, and then they went immediately back to Stanford after leaving Ambio for more brain scans and then a 1-month follow-up. So the pre-brain scans were clearly showing traumatic brain injury, post-brain scans showing it was largely reversed, if not entirely reversed in a lot of those
Yeah,
guys.
think of it like liquid plumber. You know what that is? Your drains
No.
get fucked up, and you got to pour something in there, and it breaks down the shit that's in there.
Okay.
right?
Yeah. That makes
so,
sense. Yeah.
So your brain is wired for efficiency when it receives small traumas, like little damages that happen from explosions or banging your head on something or whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's toxic exposure too. It doesn't have to be an impact injury. If your brain is sending electrical impulses to an area and it's not responding efficiently the way it's supposed to be, the brain will cut off sending energy to that area, right? So in a lot of ways, it's like stovepiped. That's what CTE is, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's why when they scan the brain after death, there's like these dark spots on it.
Yeah.
But if you can send electricity back into it, it's like using a plunger almost, right?
And it clears it up.
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
It's called, when you give somebody a large dose of Ibogaine, it's called a flood dose, and it is really flooding the system. Like after the brain scans were showing way more activity in the prefrontal cortex, where you see things, where you envision things. And yeah, like dark spots. There was one great story of a guy who said his Ibogaine journey was shallow and long. Like he didn't have tremendous visions or anything, but he said he had felt like there were 3 knives in his brain for years, and he felt those being removed, like being removed from a butcher's block. He felt his whole brain relax, and then he nudged the radiologist. He said, let me see my brain scans. He said, I'm not supposed to, but you should see this. And there were dark spots in those 3 spots, and after Ibogaine, no dark spots.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really simple. Just think of it as clogged drains. I mean, it's not a
Yeah.
1-for-1 because obviously nothing's technically clogged there. It's more because your brain's not sending electricity for efficiency reasons. But it's it's similar. It's why one of the reasons they call it flooding is because
Yeah.
you just like push energy through that until it restores. I mean, maybe it's siphoning. I don't know. You could use any number of metaphors.
Rebuilding, like everybody has a different journey, but there are common themes that come up. And one of the themes that comes up often, I call them the Iboga minions, is people will see these little construction workers working within the brain, like Pac-Man chewing things up, or like the dozers from Fraggle Rock rebuilding things. That's a super common
How old
theme.
are you? Because you're really aging yourself with these references. Right?
Yeah, sorry. I just turned 50.
Oh, wow.
You look
You're
great.
super old.
That's
Yeah.
where you say you don't look 50 at all.
No, I'm 34.
No, think of it the same way as you might think of stem cells. If you think about the creation, or our theory at least on the creation of life in the first place, it's some primordial ooze with electricity hammering into it, right? So if you think about restoring blood flow and energy to the brain, like when I say energy, I mean literal electricity into the brain in a certain area. It is indeed like having a construction crew go in there and restore it to its original capacity.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is.
And along with CTE and traumatic brain injury and PTS comes suicidality. And this, I just saw the shell casing as I sat down, and it reminded me to tell you a couple of stories around suicidality. But we had two guys come in the same group, actually. One of the guys, he was a Special Forces veteran. He was done. He was taking a 3-hour drive to the beach to off himself. And sorry, I think you might have to delete out that word.
No, you're fine.
No?
We don't give a fuck on this show.
Okay.
You can say
No,
anything
but
you want,
suicide,
dude.
I think the algorithm
we don't care
might-
about
Oh, no, we don't give a shit about
cool,
any of
cool.
that, man. I'll look, strangulation. I love it. You're good, dude.
Anyway, this guy was done. He was driving to the beach to off himself, and somebody sent him the podcast of me on Sean Ryan. It's almost 3 hours. He listened to it on the way to the beach, decided I'm going to try this instead, came out for treatment. He's now a thriving individual who is actually a coach on various levels for helping people out. But in that same group, they left on the Friday, and the housekeeper, after they left, came downstairs and brought me it wasn't a casing, it was a bullet. And I texted this guy. I'm like, is this what I think it is? He said, yeah, I won't be needing that anymore. It was the bullet he was saving to kill himself with.
Really?
He didn't need it anymore. So we have so many. I've treated the youngest person I've ever treated. He walked in the front door when he was 17 years old. His father had been through for treatment, and he saw his kids struggling, and he was done. And he left and let the group know that he went home and burnt his suicide note, and now he's thriving. There's so many
Jesus.
examples of this.
So I guess I want to start with the visions of it and why it's different for everybody, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts on it, and I've heard a lot of people on this show talk about it. I've also heard Rob talk about it. And there seems to be like a honeymoon period, a lot of people say, afterwards.
Yeah.
And then for some people it sticks. Some people it kind of wears off, and then they need another session or another, 2 sessions after that. Why is that?
I think, for one, it's very rare that anybody is coming back to Ibogaine because they feel as though it didn't work for them the first time. It's more like something did work, and maybe I didn't take advantage of it enough, or I didn't recognize the power that it had and didn't adequately prepare. Therefore, I want to go back and try it again. But, what I like to say about whether or not it is effective for people is sometimes people leave and they're like, it's like they made a 180-degree course change. Everything's fantastic. Life's great. Yay. And then they get home. The world didn't take Ibogaine with them, so shit still happens. So maybe it's not as dramatic a course change. But what I think we can do for almost everybody is a solid yet true 5-degree course change. But a 5-degree course change carried out over 10,000 miles, you're in a completely different place than if you hadn't had that shift. And I think almost to the person, we can promise at least that.
And why do so many people say that as they're going through it, it's almost like a personal hell? Now, everybody's got their own description of what their version of hell is.
Yeah.
Why is that? What is in the medication that is causing that, or causing this release, or causing people to see or hear or feel different things that are unique across the board? Because everybody's got a different story.
Yeah. I think that's psychedelics themselves. Like the word psychedelic technically means mind or soul manifesting, which I think is an accurate term because you're at least bringing about a different level of mind than you're used to. But when that term was coined by Humphrey Osmond, an English doctor who was working in Canada, he sent a little poem to his buddy Aldous Huxley as they were trying to figure out a word for these substances. And the poem was, "To fathom hell or soar angelic, just take a pinch of psychedelic." So I think that is the range inside of every human being. We've got the kingdom of heaven within, and we've got the kingdom of hell within.
All the heavens and all the hells are within you. You may have heard that before.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think because these are mind or soul manifesting, this gives you more access to that entire spectrum. And sometimes what you personally need to heal, especially some of these special operators we work with, it's got to be tough. It better show up tough and show them, show them what needs to be shown in order for them to make change. So for some people, that is maybe the more hellish realm, or, being forced to look at regrets that you have, or, your face stuck in bad decisions so that you don't make those decisions moving forward, so that you can forgive them moving forward. But I think even, the classic bad trip, I think the worst or the least thing that can happen coming out of a bad trip is maybe you have a bad trip and you get a massive lesson out of it. But other times you have a bad trip and the sole gift out of that is, wow, isn't base level consciousness awesome? Like it's just awesome to be back out of that, not stuck in that hellish realm. So sometimes that's a gift in and of itself. But some people experience heaven. Like some people walk with Jesus. Some people...
Well, I guess what separates the two. This is the hardest thing that I always struggle with when people talk about Ibogaine is, yes, to your point, it's either hell or it's heaven.
Or it's both.
It's both, yeah. Towards the end, it kind of changes there. Let's take hell. Let's start with that one first. The people that are going through hell during this experience, do they have something super traumatic in their life at a certain point? Were they trying to get over something? Were they feeling guilty about something?
Not necessarily.
What is it? Like in your research,
it's so hard to put your finger on. Like you can't predict at all what somebody's going to go through.
That's the scary part.
But
why is it scary?
Because if you're going in there and let's say, look, not a lot of people would sign up for hell for 12 hours. If you knew,
but they might if they knew their suicidality would disappear at the end of it, or their traumatic brain injury would disappear at the end of it, or they're not going to be depressed or anxious anymore at the end of it. I look at it like a surgeon. Well, I have metaphors coming out of my ass. But one of them is, the best advice I can give somebody when they take Ibogaine is taking Ibogaine is like getting on a roller coaster. There might be ups, there might be downs, maybe a loop, maybe a water feature or two with some purging into a bucket, maybe a tunnel of terror, maybe a tunnel of love. None of that matters. The only real rule of roller coasters is just don't try and get off in the middle of the ride. And if you just go with it, if you don't try and get off in the middle of the ride, it's totally doable. It might take you to some dark places, but just trust that you're going to learn in those dark places, that you're going to come out with lessons. It's like you wouldn't spend a whole bunch of time and energy preparing for a surgery and then try and tell that surgeon how to do their job while you're lying on the table. It's similar to Ibogaine. It's got some kind of an intelligence. I don't know how that works. I don't know where that comes from, but I've seen it enough to say, let it do its thing. You wouldn't tell a surgeon how to do his job. Trust that you're coming in here for a medical procedure and this medicine is going to know how to help you out. And that might mean sticking your face in some of the crap that you've done.
And is that what people are seeing? Is some of those experiences or shitty things they've done in their life, or
maybe
some of the past things they might have seen overseas, Or, I mean, shit, we were talking about a story earlier where a dude just cut his dick off in L.A. on the sidewalk and bled out, and there was 2 cops standing there.
That's psychosis. It's not the same thing.
It's not that, but here's what I said, I said, those 2 cops going home tonight, and it's like, hey, sitting down at dinner, and one of them's going to sit there and say, hey, hon, how was work today? Well, saw a guy cut his dick off on the sidewalk, and then he bled out, and then, passed the asparagus. That's... Yeah. I don't know how you mentally just block out all of that shit and then live a normal life after that.
Well, we work with a lot of first responders now.
I'm sure you do.
There's a nonprofit called the 343fund.org, which sends first responders down specifically. And that's, like veterans, we work with a lot of veterans. They're retired. These first responders are going back into their job after we treat them. But it still seems to be like going in, taking off the 50-pound, 100-pound rucksack you've been carrying so that you can go back out more focused and enjoy life a little bit more while you face that stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. So some of these guys are going back to real jobs and all that stuff?
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's wild to me. Because you feel like if you freed yourself from it, why would you want to step back into it and potentially have...
I think just because they have to, first responders that are still working, maybe in the middle of their careers, they got to pay the bills somehow.
For sure.
So I think we work with a lot of professional athletes as well. One of the we've treated Alish Hemsky, former Dallas Star, Edmonton Oiler, assistant captain on the Oilers hockey team for a dozen years. He was saying, wow, I wish I could have done this mid-career, because he was retired for concussions and he had a very lackluster retirement because he was just kind of quietly pushed aside because of the concussions. The cool thing was Ibogaine actually gave him a vision of a final hockey game. So it gave him his last game so he could kind of forgive the fact that he hadn't had a last game as well. But,
really?
But he said, and he's encouraging other athletes, like, do this in the middle of your career and it's going to extend your career. And I think that's true for first responders that want to keep working as well.
You can see what's happening there, though, right? You can see what problem it's solving. It's solving the problem of identity. That's what psychedelics really do. So you have your identity is built. There is some baseline software you can tell between the difference between your first and second kid, for example. Not always the case, but almost always the case that the first one's more risk averse. The second one is just more prone to lead with his head, for example, right? You can tell these things. There's no tabula rasa, no clean slate, which is an old theory. So there is some underlying software, but over time we build an identity. We learn about what love is primarily from our mother. We learned because we start saying the phrase "I love you" before we understand what it means. You know what I mean? Mom says it to us, we say it back to her, and our understanding of it is this woman protects me or whatever, right? Provides me emotional support. So that's what love is to you, and the idea of love grows over time. When you get a little bit older, 4, 5, 6, probably, you start to see it through example, like how dad treats mom is an historical example of how that happens. And then, your identity gets layered on over time. You figure out what sort of things are important to you, and you go out and make a life based on those things. That's what most people do, right? And it's easy for that to get disrupted through a shitty home life, through bad pop culture, getting sucked into this or that thing. Mm-hmm. And people historically have been too busy to have these luxury beliefs, under threat of danger. But now we're in a unique time in human history. And the last couple of generations of the West have opted for pacification, for substances that pacify us rather than elevate us. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, the Greeks would have used kykeon, for example, and not just booze.
Mysteries of Eleusis.
Yeah. They would have poured some kind of hallucinogen into their wine and drank it and had a fucking experience. The book of Revolution was likely written by John the Revelator, but likely while he was on mushrooms because the Isle of Patmos was covered in mushrooms. So a lot of this stuff about building core identity and how we interface with the world gets broken down. It gets built, and it can get built poorly, and then it can get broken down even when it is built correctly later on. The thing for special operators, especially, is that they have a very high proclivity to come from broken homes, 70%-ish, come from some kind of broken or abusive home.
Why do you think that is?
The same reason Deion Sanders wants kids from broken homes, right? Because he wants defensive ends and running backs that come from broken homes because they're tough.
Yeah.
And they are driven by aggression, right? And that guy is out there searching for something to serve, because that's what human males define their identity by, is finding something to serve. And if we end up serving ourselves, then we end up either narcissist or suicidal. It's one of the two. There's no other option if you're serving yourself. So this is what Ibogaine does. You could see it in all, like the common thread in all of these journeys is that I'm faced not necessarily with something terrible I've done or seen, but something that has affected my identity, right? Like, I'm a human being. I serve a just world as a first responder, and I'm seeing so much injustice that it's starting to tear away at this idea of a just world. And then this thing can come back and repair it. You see it with the hockey player. He identifies himself, like his core identity, as the captain of the team or the player on the team or whatever it is. Like Gerard says, and every athlete dies twice. You know what I mean? And being able to have that closure to wrap up that part of your identity and put it on the shelf, right? And then take the core elements of it and go back to your normal life and be that man for the rest of your life, just in a different capacity, something that's difficult for most people.
Yeah.
But these drugs rather, are a facilitator for that.
Yeah.
And when you go down there, is there, during the screening process you were talking about earlier, is there people that you just say, man, I don't know if this guy's ready for it. I'm sorry, I can't take you through this.
Yeah, 100%. We, if somebody has something, like the obvious stuff would be acute schizophrenia or really acute unmedicated bipolar disorder or something like that. We ask for an EKG ahead of time. There's some heart issues that we'll screen out for as well. There's a lot of psych meds that people need to come off of ahead of time for at least 5 to 10 days prior to arrival to us. So that needs to be within their capacity. And then there are people who come down. It's happened a couple times fairly recently where you're like, there's just no way it would be safe to give this person psychedelics.
Really?
Yeah, we had one gentleman arrive into Malta, and he was just all over the place. Like, he brought multiple computers to still do stock trading throughout the week and refused to let go of those. And we're like, dude, you have no idea what to get. I can't let you trade stocks drunk, basically, because we need to take this away.
Yeah.
But
they do that when you're in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like they take your computers away and your phones and all that other
and
stuff.
we've never had this issue before, but this guy clearly didn't know what he was getting into. So we turned him away. We said, we'll refund your money and get you out of here.
Did mentally he think he was tough enough that, like, hey, dude, I'm sure this is a fun little thing, and then I'm going to be able to go back to work the next day?
The irony was he was sitting in the opening circle, and he thought, oh, man, all these people are really messed up. I shouldn't be here. But he was clearly the most messed up of them all. He had no balance.
No
He
shit.
had no self-awareness.
Just a workaholic or something?
A workaholic. I think his doctor referred him to us, but his wife wanted him to stay, but he was not on board. He was trying to get off the roller coaster before we even gave him any drugs. So
Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
So I remember back when I was providing in Vancouver, there was a young woman who came through, and I could just really tell she didn't trust me or the situation at all. And I said, it is not ethical for me to give you the most powerful psychedelic on earth while you don't trust me.
Was she pissed off about it?
I think in the moment she was, and I think she thanks me afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, during this process, you said it lasts, 24 hours the first time?
Yeah, about 24 hours.
And for that 24 hours, are you awake the entire time for 24 hours? And that's why you're so exhausted? Because you were talking about the gray zone afterwards.
Yeah, you're pretty much awake the whole time. Some people nod off. It's interesting when they do. But it is, the first 6 to 12 hours might be, you might see things, you might hear things. It's often described as a lucid dream type state. It's called oniric, which means as related to dreams. So not everybody gets visions. You don't need to have visions for Ibogaine to work for you, but sometimes you get, people describe like Minority Report sometimes, like a big heads-up display, and you can move things around and zoom into things. Sometimes it's more analog, like a slideshow. I've had people say, how did you get those slides from my childhood? That was incredible. And just completely convinced that we had planned that for her. And we said, no, man. That was the medicine. That was all you. So people see things. Sometimes people, game shows is a common theme, like needing to accomplish something.
Be on a game show and win?
Sometimes like just running different scenarios, and if you get it right, you'll get a ding, 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 ding. And if not, you'll get an like weird. Like I say, everybody's journey is different, but common themes like
I've told you before, DMT especially is like this because it's such it's a more truncated timeline. So you can I can write down something that I want to think about while I'm there, smoke it, 15 minutes later, I'm back out. I'm like, okay, let me adjust a little bit and go back in. It's a lot. To me, it's quite a bit more versatile if you're already aware of what you're trying to work on. I use it for performance now. I don't have any kind of issues that I need to deal with. So now I use it for performance, which makes it a lot easier. But the same principle exists no matter what psychedelic it is. And that is it forces you to ask and answer questions that you avoid, whether it's consciously or subconsciously avoiding, right? It's like, for the hockey guy, I'm afraid of the end, or I never got to experience the end and I feel regret for it. For a man, admitting to anything is tough. You know what I mean? As a dude, it's just difficult to admit to anything, literally. But under the drug, it's so powerful that you can't stop it. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. And to the point from before where people have to go back multiple times, it can show you the way and nothing more. You're the one that has to walk.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's no shade on people that have to go back. Sometimes you just don't recognize what you really need to do until the second time or the third time even. Or maybe you walk a little bit and you're like, I need to go a little bit farther, so I need to go back, right? That doesn't mean you failed at it any more than you failed at getting your lift up and then you go back 2 weeks later and you get it. You know what I mean? It's just that's how it's life.
Yeah. You're constantly pushing forward, and hopefully you accomplish what your goal is, or your PR, whatever it is. But let's take the audience through the first couple hours. I've heard there's somebody in the room with you the entire time.
Yeah.
Is that for all 24 hours?
Yeah, you're hooked up to a heart monitor. There is a nursing staff that's present the whole time. If you need anything, you'll raise your hand. If you need to go to the bathroom, raise your hand. We'll disconnect you from the heart monitor. We have to help you to the bathroom. You become very ataxic, very shaky when you're on the medicine. So you need help moving around, and you don't feel like moving around. So basically, you have a blindfold on. We have music playing in the room, and you're going deep into yourself. And some people don't see anything. And, that's part of the preparation, is you really don't need to have a vision for this to work for you.
Do they choose their music?
No, we play it throughout the room. So we do groups of anywhere from 6 to 11 people.
At the same time?
At the same time. So everybody will have their own mattress, and they're all being monitored by the same medical staff. And it's super hard to say what people see. Like sometimes they get flooded with tons of images right away. It's auditory hallucinations are super common. You might hear things. You might hear, your compatriot whispering something, but when you look, nobody's saying anything. You might hear the staff talking to each other, but when you look, nobody's saying anything. Voices, whispers are super common. When I watch other podcasts and hear other people talking about Ibogaine recently, I'm hearing a lot about this life review. Everybody gets this fantastic life review, and it makes total sense. And it's just not true. Some people might get a minor life review. Maybe some people do get a full spectrum life review.
Like your life flashing before your eyes.
Life flashing before your eyes.
To be clear.
Yeah, and I hear that so much, and other people are hearing that so much that they get disappointed when that doesn't show up. So part of my mission is debunking that myth. You might see a few things. You might see oftentimes you can see people who have passed away. It's known as an ancestor medicine in the jungles of Africa where it's from. So you might get closure that way, but not always. But energetically, you might still feel as though you got closure, even though you didn't see someone. There was a former Green Beret that we treated, and he felt pretty good overall about his career, but there was one kill shot that really bothered him. It was just one guy that had been trying to attack them for days, and he took the shot that ended his life. And for some reason, that one stood out. And in his Ibogaine journey, that guy appeared and said, "Hey, I was trying to kill you too. Don't worry about it. You can let it go."
Whoa.
So,
Yeah, it's like an unanswered question.
Yeah.
You know, that's what anxiety is, really, if you think about it. Anxiety is unanswered questions. It's like, did I prepare enough for this thing? Am I capable of doing this? What's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, and that's part of life. Not knowing is probably one of the more important parts of life, because it tells you that you need to be resilient above all else, right? And what is resilience? Go back to this identity thing. The idea of becoming individually resilient is really important, especially in Western civilization. We identified that back with Aristotle in the 3rd, 4th century BC. But it is compounded. And one of the revelations, I guess, of individuality is that the only way that I can become resilient is if I make you resilient too, and you resilient, and you resilient, and we stand together against evil. That's how it has to work. So, like, that's one of the unanswered questions that I hear a lot of people in the military community asking, because you are in this, by necessity, contained community, and then you get out. And there's all these other questions about the war, about brain trauma, about closure. That's who I used to be. Who am I now? But a big part of it as well is the community. It's why we started the show in the first place back in the day, is the community. You know what I mean? And what does it mean to be part of one? And what does it mean? Like the purpose of individuality is to opt in to being part of the group. That's why it is better than collectivism. Collectivism requires that you are forced into a group, right? Individuality, individual liberty doesn't say that you should go live alone in the woods somewhere. It says you get to choose which group you're going to be a part of. And then how do you choose? Do you choose based on unchangeable physical characteristics like skin color or something? Or do you pick people that believe the fucking important shit that you do? It's what defines the West versus the rest of the world, is that we made these conscious leaps. It took us 2,000 years, but we made these conscious leaps to decide we were going to become a creedal society. And that's a huge part of it. That's a big unanswered question for a lot of veterans when they get out, for a lot of first responders when they stop doing what they do. Who am I now that I'm not doing this thing? And I think using these drugs is probably one of the better ways.
Yeah.
For my opinion, it's the best way to handle it. But
yeah, that
not everybody
what
does
he's
it.
describing is often summed up as operator syndrome. Operator syndrome isn't necessarily just the PTS or the moral injury that you might be suffering, or even the physical injuries that you're suffering. It's the fact that the brotherhood isn't there anymore. It's the fact that the career you identified with for the last 20 years isn't there anymore. And these substances are very helpful for these times of transition and helping you move from carrying a machine gun to carrying the baby, which isn't an automatically easy tradition.
Yeah, hands strong enough to kill a man and soft enough to kill a baby. That's our ethos to some degree. But how do you do that? So some of the time when I'm smoking DMT, I'll think about, like, I try to reduce it down to a part of my identity. What's important to me as a man to do? Like what functionally is important to me, to help people, provide for people, whatever it is, protect people. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to be that guy. I'll just say something kind of vague, like I'm going to be the man. The last time I smoked, I'm going to be the man they need me to be. Who's they? I don't know yet, right? That's a question that I'm going to go fucking answer now. And I smoke drugs and I start seeing a bunch of people's groups, whatever the fuck in my brain. That's it, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is how you use psychedelics properly.
Well,
That's,
he's,
for optimization.
For real, he's an expert.
Yeah.
Like, and he's been doing it for many, many years.
Yeah.
And at a level where I've had a lot of friends who psychedelics, and it's like, some of them are dipshits, frankly.
Well, it's because they're chasing something that doesn't exist. They're chasing nirvana. Nirvana's not a fucking thing. Eastern religions figured out a lot of stuff, but what they didn't with that chase for inner peace, what they forgot about was that the entire reason we make ourselves better is to serve other people. Every meaningful thing you do in your life will be in the service of somebody else. Hard fucking stop after that. So if you approach it with that mindset, I'm going to become better, not for me, but for the people around me, then you don't fall into this fucking trap where these people end up smoking and crying in the woods and stick fighting and pretending like they're fucking becoming men. It's nonsense, right? Like there is a process for all this stuff that works very well, and it does include some Eastern stuff as well. But this drug is from South America. It's
South Africa.
Or South Africa,
Or
excuse me.
West Africa,
West Africa,
but yeah.
Yeah. It's not from Asia. That's not what this isn't opium. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
It's something else. And it comes from a long line of people who are, like you said, a part of it is a bigger part of the origination of this stuff is the ancestor worship, right? And that was a very, and it should continue to be a very important part of our civilization. I'm not saying go North Korea, where the guy's grandfather is still the president technically, or his dead dad is still the leader of the military. That might be a little too far. That might be retarded. But this idea that we borrow honor from the past. My name is this. My people did this. And I'm going to fucking take that baton and continue it in the next generation and live my life in a way that my descendants can fucking take honor from me. That's a very important part of civilization. It's how it transfers one person to another. And if you're able to get yourself on a mental and spiritual plane where you can understand the sacrifices of the past and then contextualize them for the present, then you can give something truly great to the future, right?
Yeah. And one of the most interesting things that I found about, because my entire family was military pretty much. I mean, going to World War I, World War II, other grandfather was in Korea, one was in Vietnam and in reserves and all that other stuff. And when I would hear their stories, interestingly enough, they never, ever told me any war stories. So I never got to hear about the things they did or whatever. They always talked about the camaraderie of it and the missing of the brotherhood. So like I knew about their friends. Like they would tell me stories about their friends. And, oh man, there was this one guy, Chris, he was crazy, or you know, who else? And we would always laugh, and he was the funniest dude, and all that other stuff. And that's what they missed the most.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, you're back in America, and then you're expected to go work a normal job with these shitbirds that, truthfully, you probably don't have anything in common with.
Yeah.
They certainly didn't have the same shared experience as you did, going through times of war or anything else. And then you feel like you're stuck, man, in mud, and you're just in this 9 to 5, and you don't know if you can get out of it.
That was my grandfather. He was a World War II vet, and he wouldn't speak to anybody about the war, except he would go to the Royal Canadian Legion and sit and talk with other people who had served in World War II. And otherwise, he definitely had PTS, post-traumatic stress, and he medicated it with a case of beer every night.
Okay.
And actually, speaking of Ancestor showing up in your Ibogaine journeys, he came to me in an Ibogaine journey and said, Trevor, you need to stop drinking for my lineage.
Whoa.
And it was a super powerful whoa moment. Absolutely. I had no intent or desire to stop drinking when I went into that journey, but I decided to give it a try. And now I went about 3.5 years after that journey without drinking. Then I let it in for special occasions. It never went, I was never entirely off the rails, but then I drank for special occasions. Then I had another journey probably 4 years ago now and just decided to stop again. So
Did
it
you
just
serve?
fell away. No.
Okay. What made you get into this then? What was the...
Well, it's kind of what you were just talking about when you recognize that ultimate fulfillment is going to come from serving your community. I was in my early 20s, I was reading book after book about how to be successful, how to be happy, how to make money. I didn't go to university, but I had a chip on my shoulder that I'd be at least as successful as my friends who did. So I went through this really big self-education process. And at one point, I stopped in my tracks and I said, well, why am I reading all these books? The answer came back, I want to be happy. Okay, let's cut to the chase. What do all these books say about being happy? And I realized that the happiest people, or at least the people I most wanted to emulate, seemed to be helping a heck of a lot more people than I was at the time. So I found that to be a valid hypothesis, and that's when I turned my attention to Vancouver's downtown east side and just started looking at ways that I might be able to help out that neighborhood with, no skills on paper that would indicate I had any chance of helping that neighborhood, but I thought that might be an asset. Maybe I'd have fresh eyes. And it took almost 10 years, but that ended up being true. I found Ibogaine because I just kept looking at ways to help.
Did you go to college, by the way? Or?
No.
Okay.
No, just graduated high school. But ultimately, I've been published in 4 medical journals now.
That's awesome.
More than most of the doctor friends.
Yeah. It's hard.
Including Nature Medicine, which is where the Stanford paper ended up. But I just wanted to give back, saw this is how I'm going to feel good. The hypothesis proved true. There is nothing that feels better than genuinely helping people. And I get like text messages every day on how much lives have changed through people walking through our front doors at Ambio. So yeah, it's been incredible.
Yeah, because online we follow influencers. I hate that fucking word. Sorry, but like people on Instagram and things like that who have said Ibogaine has changed my life.
Yeah.
And then they'll go into the stories. It almost feels to me like unless you've done it, you don't really know what that journey or that process is about.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's fascinating for other people of like, all right, if it changed this guy's life and this guy's a piece of shit, then maybe I should do it and it'll change my life. Yeah. Has there been people that have come through and they came out of it and it didn't help them whatsoever?
It's a really small percentage. That's why I like that 5%, that 5-degree course change. I think everybody gets at least that. If they look back on their life a year from the time they did Ibogaine, some pretty cool things have shifted. And that's almost to the person. We have an incredibly high satisfaction rate.
Now, it's nothing medicinally will work without lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's true of any medicine you take.
You have to be willing to do that. And Ibogaine seems to, it's very good at helping you get rid of negative patterns. Like, think of the most extreme example as heroin addiction. Somebody comes in, before they come, they've been spending 70, 80, 90% of the time of their time, their emotional energy, their psychic energy focusing on the next hit. We can take that away virtually overnight. Then that leaves a vacuum. What are you going to fill that vacuum with? Well, that's part of the preparation we do. We encourage people to put together a 5 to thrive, 5 things they're going to do every day on the way out of this to make sure that their life continues to move in the right direction. And it's good at ending those negative patterns, and it's really good at supporting you implementing those positive patterns.
Yeah, ultimately, you've got to rebuild your identity after that, especially with addiction. I mean, it's one thing, whenever you go into a sustained fight or flight mode, whether it be addiction or post-traumatic stress or whatever the fuck it is, psychotic breaks even, once you come out of it, you've got to rebuild your identity from scratch sometimes. Oftentimes, there is something that you used to be that you can become again. But some people, if it's a career you've moved on from or something like that, you can't necessarily become that again. So again, you've got to reduce that to the fundamental principles of what that thing was that you were, right? I was in the military, but I'm a protector. That's really what it is. It isn't. The military part is superfluous. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Anyways.
Look at this weirdo who just showed up here.
Did you tell me to walk on set or not?
No, we sure
No.
didn't.
Hi,
We sure
everybody.
didn't. Yeah, there he is, dude.
Ian Crossland.
You guys are talking
Hey,
about
what's
Ibogaine.
up, Ian?
Good to see you, Ross.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy. We'll see you on the next show, brother. Yeah, we got a half hour here.
He might be on Ibogaine.
Are you on
right now.
Ibogaine right now? I like you just strolled in, dude. And you're like, oh, you guys are live on air? Fuck it. Yeah, dude, I'll hop on in. Don't worry about it. No, you're good. Grab some HardAF and fucking chill out, dude. I'll see you in a second. But Texas gets a lot of things wrong. Obviously, we're in the state of Texas, in particular with drugs. Their stance on marijuana over the years has been fucking ridiculous, in my opinion. And then Governor Wheelchair at the last seconds, it was like 12:01 on a Sunday nights, had said, no, we're going to allow this to continue with Delta 8, Delta 9, everything else. So I personally was stunned that Rick Perry and these guys got together last year, I believe it was last June, raised $50 million for the states. Then they gave it to UT Health in Houston in collaboration with those guys to help Texas lead this surge into Ibogaine clinical trials. And then Governor Abbott actually signed an Ibogaine treatment research law at the Texas Capitol shortly thereafterwards. Yeah. Who got in these guys here? Because no offense, I don't see Abbott sitting down and taking Ibogaine.
Rick Perry's entire circle is all veterans.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor, I guess.
Buddy of ours.
And Dakota Meyer
Yeah.
is good friends with Rick as well. There's
Okay.
a lot. There's a lot of
buddies
There's a
of
lot
mine.
of like Texas veterans who are in Rick's ear a lot.
Yeah, but like Marcus Luttrell and the governor met in San Diego the first time the governor popped by. Marcus showed him around. The governor said to Marcus, hey, if you're ever near the governor's mansion, knock on the door, pop by, which I guess he says to everybody. Nobody actually did till Marcus showed up with a bag, basically didn't leave for a year and a half. So he saw how bad Marcus was and was trying to help him recover. And
Really?
and then he saw him do Ibogaine, and that changed everything in Marcus's life. And that's where the governor is like, I'm all over this. So now they have started the Americans for Ibogaine initiative, a nonprofit, basically trying to quarterback these states into spending money towards getting clinical trials for Ibogaine done. Texas put $50 million towards it. I spoke at the Mississippi State Capitol not long ago. They just signed a bill putting $5 million in. Arizona has put $5 million in. Missouri is moving towards it. Oklahoma is moving towards it. A whole bunch of these red states, which is crazy.
Is this something where it'll eventually, you can take the treatment here in America? Because everybody's going to Mexico or Colombia or you know.
That's the goal, is
Okay.
to first get it rescheduled. It's Schedule 1 right now, which means that it's got a high chance of abuse and it's got zero medical use, which you've just heard everything we've been
Man, if
talking
you're
about.
using Ibogaine recreationally, you are a different kind of human being than I am.
Bro,
Fuck
that's-
that. I've never done it. I've hundreds of my friends have done it, but I've done psychedelics for let's see, 30 some years, and fuck that.
Yeah.
No, that's not something like, hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? Do you want to go to hell? I'm like, no.
No, I don't.
Have
Fuck
a puke
that.
fest in
Yeah.
hell with
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
shit and puke yourself and sweat and fucking be stuck in a room?
I want to watch
No.
the Braves game.
No.
Yeah.
No
exactly.
chance of abuse, and it's anti-addictive. We use it to get people off of opiates.
I would
So-
love to meet the person though that got addicted. Not like to the journey part of it, but like if you can get physically addicted to Ibogaine, you deserve to run the country, I think, or something. We got to reward you somehow.
Yeah,
I
what's the
haven't
most,
met- I
what's the
haven't
most
met the
time
person.
somebody's done it?
I've done it 11 times. I don't
Good
think
Lord.
I know anybody that's
That's
done
a
it
lot.
more. I just, because I work with it, I try and do it once a year to remind myself what I'm doing to people. And there have been times where on my own grade A, I'm like, fuck this. I don't need to do this every year. This is retarded. What am I doing? I can't believe I do this to people. But the very next day, I felt like $1 million. And I'm like, oh, of course I'm doing this again next year.
Now with
I feel
DMT,
amazing.
it's like 2 minutes after the 5-minute or 15-minute trip where you feel that way.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, if
Yeah,
if you're not battling something extreme, maybe just go to the DMT route.
If you're looking to shorten the road trip.
Yeah.
And you can find there's a church now, so it's legal in the U.S. There's a church that the federal government technically allows to administer DMT and stuff like that. There's probably 25 Navy SEALs that do it. One here in town, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I heard. I heard
yeah.
about that. Is that something you're?
I have heard that they technically have a legal leg to stand on if push comes to shove, but it's not all the way legal.
It's
like they basically have a defense.
It would have to be adjudicated,
defensible what they're
and
doing.
just considering the people that are involved in it, there's no way that the federal government's
Yeah,
going to come
exactly.
snatch up a bunch of Navy SEALs who are helping other fucking veterans. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's part of it though. Like if you're in a position, forget about there's all these different levels where you can help people. Sometimes helping people is establishing infrastructure for something that you may not personally get the benefit from,
Yeah.
right? What's that old phrase? If you civilizations grow great when men plant trees under which a shade they'll never sit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a big part of our community here is building for the next generation. There was some dust up. We talked about it with the VA about a month ago where they were trying to pull some bullshit and everybody kind of lit them up. It's like, why do you care? You're already fucking this or that. And one of the VA's responses to it was, oh, this won't affect anybody that's already got their rating. We don't fucking care about that. We care about all of us, you piece of shit. And they're trying to do it now. They're trying to use AI software to go through everybody's fucking medical paperwork to identify fraud. Like, what are you talking about? Isn't that the doctor's job? Look at a guy. Does he got a leg?
Yeah.
The fuck are you talking about? And anyways, the VA sucks. And it's fucking pointless, and it shouldn't exist. That's it.
Do you think this should be part of VA in treatment for veterans? Is that something you're lobbying for the future?
Ultimately, yes. I think running this through clinical trials so that it can be made available stateside as a prescription is a good thing. But it's never going to be a prescription like walk into a pharmacy, grab your Ibogaine, and go home with it.
Right.
It's always going to need to be done in hopefully a setting a lot like Ambio. So we are supporting all these initiatives in the States. And once one of these drugs gets through as a prescription, then they're going to need clinic providers in the States. So it's our goal to eventually have, an Ambio in every state would be ideal, and we'd be happy to work with the VA. But you don't want to take Ibogaine, sit in a sterile hospital room, and trip balls by yourself. So you've got to start with the end in mind. The end in mind is what we're doing in Mexico. It's not just coming in alone and taking Ibogaine. We've found great value in the group setting. We do things like put a sweat lodge in there. There's breath work. There's mindful movement or yoga and meditation. There's a lot of preparation that goes around simply taking the drug.
And then after you leave, how long does it take to kick in where you start to notice a life change?
Pretty quickly. Like, I think a lot of people feel as though they leave the 100-pound rucksack down in Mexico.
After the 5 days?
So, yeah, they feel a lot lighter almost instantly. And then some people there's an energetic tax that Ibogaine asks of you. You might be tired for a week or two. It takes me like a full 14 days before I get all my energy back personally. But some people bounce back right away and feel like $1 million on the way out. I'm just thinking of a father reached out to me recently.
You're putting on reading glasses.
Sorry,
though.
he was.
You're fine.
Well, he knows what Fraggle Rock is. It comes with those glasses,
I was gonna
actually.
say,
The knowledge of Fraggle Rock.
This guy, there's a great movie, by the way, called In Waves and War on Netflix, which features Marcus Capone, Matty Roberts, DJ Shipley, all former Navy SEALs, and their personal journeys with Ibogaine on various levels, and they come down to Ambio for treatment. But DJ referred this father to me. His daughter had suffered traumatic brain injury, I think from skiing, was 21 years old, really messed up, suicidal, didn't want to live like this for the rest of her life. We got her in. I got this text yesterday. Hi, Trevor. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you've been doing for my daughter and our family. Fitting us in so quickly and then rescheduling as needed. She felt incredibly welcomed, safe, and cared for at Ambio. The treatment has changed her life, and she feels, in her words, born again. I had very high expectations for the impact of this treatment, and they were exceeded. It's brought joy and tears hearing about what she went through and the way it was handled by the staff. I believe this has saved her life. She feels a strong conviction to share this message. It goes on for another paragraph, but that's yesterday's text. Those come through all the time. Like, it's such an honor to work with something that seems so good at delivering on its promise in this world of false promises. But I think, as you know, most psychedelics have a pretty powerful impact. I think the unique thing about Ibogaine is the impact it seems to have on the physical system itself. Like, we don't know of any psychedelics, or we haven't seen the brain scans showing that anything else is actually reversing traumatic brain injury. It's also good at treating Parkinson's disease. We did a case study on a veteran that we treated who was diagnosed with MS. He had brain lesions that showed up on a brain scan, and after the Ibogaine protocol we put him through again, it was reduced in size by 73%, I think, an MS brain lesion. So that guy has no symptoms of MS anymore.
That's interesting.
I know two women who have come through. Results may vary, of course, but these two women came through it, went back to their doctors, and their doctors said, we can no longer technically diagnose you as having MS.
Which is like, even with relapsing remitting, you can always test for it, right? Which is interesting. So the thing that I want to see at some point in the future, and obviously there's got to be some research on this, But when you return that person to that state of vitality, mental or with the physical brain, is the way that I always say it. To have stem cells be injected to pass the blood-brain barrier. I've had it done myself before. But in that moment after, where there's some damage to the brain, but you've returned blood flow, you've returned electricity to those parts, and you send in these stem cells from like my buddy's company, BioAccelerator in Columbia, is the best one in the world, in my opinion. Chuck Liddell's gone there, all these guys. AJ Buckley's gone there.
A bunch of our friends, yeah.
A bunch of our friends have gone there. The stem cells go to the area and they remind the area how to replicate themselves correctly. Think of it as putting a stamp back in the ink, right? If you could do that for somebody with Alzheimer's or any fucking brain injury, doesn't matter what it is, any kind of brain neurological or even autoimmune injury, whatever it happens to be, it's pretty promising that you could end that permanently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that we should be looking into.
Yeah.
Well, at least, the legislation here is, passing
forward,
bills.
yeah.
They're approving funds and all that other stuff. So it might not be that far around the corner to where you'll be able to do this stateside and in a bunch of these states.
Yeah.
So that way you're not having to travel, Mexico or wherever to do it.
Well, on the other side of the false promises stuff is the alarmist bullshit stuff, right? Where it's like, nobody's getting addicted to Ibogaine, but even if it was potentially addictive, that doesn't mean it doesn't have uses. And all of the just absolute lies surrounding stem cell stuff is insane to me. You know what I mean?
I can't believe that's still going on.
It's so fucking dumb. So there's a NATO hospital. They ask they have a very specific type of person they're looking for, very healthy, somewhere between 19 and 22 years old, and the stem cells come after birth. The baby's already alive, right? Mm-hmm. They come from the umbilical cord and other places like that. After it doesn't, there's no damage being done to anything. It's just not true. That's I don't. The pharmaceutical industry spent billions of dollars lying about this for years with the help of a bunch of right-wing politicians in the United States to keep that shit shut down, which is why you got to go to fucking Colombia to get it done. It should be standard care here, frankly. Yep. It should be so standard that the average person can just afford to do it.
Everybody who's done it says it's changed their life. I mean, I've never met somebody who's done it and said it didn't work for me or it didn't help me out in some way, shape, or form. Athletes, people in the military, everything
Wow.
So hopefully it'll change someday. But everybody's got weird beliefs and all that other shit, and it's a whole other story about politics, isn't it? That's fun. Now's the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you or helps you become the person you are today. For you, who inspired you to do this? Was there one person that really changed your life and said, hey, this should be my new mission?
That's tough. Jesus.
Aldous Huxley.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, why
Okay.
not Jesus? Like, I think I kind of turned away from Christianity as I grew up in the United Church of Canada, which is the most liberal mainstream church in Canada, and kind of turned away from it when I was 16, 17. And kind of like, how could these adults believe this fairy tale? Mm-hmm. And then in my early 20s, I started investigating spirituality and kind of all religion. And then came back to Jesus and realized this guy was one of the most badass people to ever have lived. He was really saying, I am divine. We are all divine. These things I do, you can do and greater. And they said, oh, you can't say that. Take that back. He's like, no, I'm not going to take that back. He's like, well, we're going to string you up on a cross if you don't take that back. He's like, you're not listening to me. And he just turned his attention to people that needed help. And when I talked about people I most want to emulate who seem to be helping people, he seemed to help a lot of people. So he was one of the inspirations for turning my attention to the downtown east side of Vancouver, where, addicts, people addicted to drugs are kind of the lepers of today. Nobody really wants to help them. So I turned my attention to see what I could do to help those folks. And everything good in my life has come out of that. And The downtown east side of Vancouver still exists, and everything I am doing is still working towards being able to go back there legally and in scale to help out people in that neighborhood.
Well, look, man, it's a fascinating story, and you're an interesting dude, and you've helped a lot of people, a lot of our friends, and they swear by it. I mean, Rob has sweared by it, and yeah. If you're out there and you want to give this a shot, where should they go?
Our website is ambio.life, ambio.life. We've got a great Instagram page at Ambio Life Sciences. And our website has incredible videos. Rob O'Neill's in the 20-minute video on the screen there. Cody Alford, Alish Hemsky, Tony Cowden, another Special Forces vet. There's a lot of great resources on that website. I think that's probably the best resource for Ibogaine on the planet now, not only just about Ambio, but about Ibogaine itself. So check that out.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll put the link in the audio description, Bob. That way anybody who wants to check it out can go there. So that way, in case you forgot what you heard and maybe you're driving, listening to this show, you don't have a pen on you or whatever, just check the audio link the link in the audio description.
And definitely check out In Waves and War on Netflix. It just came out in November. It was one of the top documentaries for a little while. It is an incredible movie. So if you're interested at all, make sure you see In Waves and War.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you guys tuning in at home. Go to iTunes, rate the show a 5-star, and leave a quick review. We're not at 10,000 yet over there. I think we're at 8,000. So we got to get to 10, and I'll shut up. Spotify, we're already there. Okay, Spotify is there. Thank you very much. And send us these topics, man. We're happy to chat with people like this and hopefully answer some of your questions because there is a large interest in this, and people want to know where to go, and they want to know a safe place to go, versus, hey, dude, my cousin went to this place in the jungle somewhere, and I don't know what the fuck it was or what happened or whatever. So we try to vet people before they come on the show. Yeah. So thank you. We appreciate it. For D'Anthony Hollaway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros Podcast. Good night, everyone.